Hi, Commissioner Janner. You there?
Yep, I'm here. Yep.
Thank you.
Ruby. We're good? Yeah. All right, I'd like to call to order the August 22nd, 2024 regular meeting of the Naperville Park District Board of Commissioners. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Monica, can we have the roll call, please?
President Gibson?
Here.
Vice President Ruffing?
Here.
Commissioner Ansier, absent. Commissioner Jacks?
Here.
Commissioner Janner, absent. Commissioner Risvold?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
President Gibson, I've been notified that Commissioner Janner has requested to participate remotely due to business purposes.
Move to allow remote meeting participation of Commissioner Janner per Section 7 of the Open Meetings Act.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Vice President Ruffing?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Risvold?
Yes.
President Gibson?
Yes. Commissioner Janner, can you hear us?
Yes, thank you.
All right, great, thanks. Monica, are there any matters from the public?
There are not.
All right, thank you. Would you please read the consent agenda?
Item 3.1, approve July 2024 disbursements made through the Bank of America Purchasing Card Program in the amount of $377,040.77. 3.2, approve August 8th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. That is all.
Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately?
Move to accept consent agenda items 3.1 through 3.2.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Vice President Ruffing?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Jacks?
Yes.
Commissioner Janner?
Yes.
Commissioner Risvold?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Move to approve consent agenda items 3.1 through 3.2.
Second.
On favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. No unfinished business. Oh, sorry about that. Yep. No unfinished business. On to new business. 2024 mid-year review and 2025 budget.
Thank you, President Gibson. So this evening, we want to provide the board with an update, our annual mid-year review, and then talk a little bit about what we're looking forward to in the upcoming year. So this is something that we typically do at the second meeting each August, and we'll run through this. So an overview of where we're at. We're about 2/3 of the way through 2024. So where are we at as an organization? Overall, we're in a positive financial position, but we're still managing some pressures. Some of the pressures that we continue to see are the rising costs of goods and services, as well as just projects with some of the bids that we've seen this year and just the overall costs associated with those. Rising program expenses and balancing that in maintaining affordable programs as well continues to be a pressure for us. Filling some of our skilled part-time positions have been a bit challenging. We have, and a few more bullets down, you'll see that the recruitment efforts are really working, and we're in a much better place than where we've been the past few years with some of our fulfillment of part-time positions. But some of those skilled positions are still a little bit difficult to be able to fill. And then just managing compression as we continue to see the minimum wage increase. We're working through a compensation study right now for all of our full-time employees, but just as we look forward, how do we continue to manage the compression issues between new employees and employees that have been with the district for quite a while. We're in a solid position regarding participation numbers and facility utilization. Director Coates and Carlson will share a little bit more information on that in the upcoming slides. Strong partnerships this year really are helping to support operations and then new and improved park amenities. Some of those partnerships include the recent field naming at Knock Park with Wintrust, with the partnership with School District 203 for the parking lot expansion at Knock Park, which that parking lot just opened. Our partnership with DuPage County on a number of stormwater projects at parks in the community. The partnership with Naperville Little League Baseball and opening the synthetic turf field at DuPage River Sports Complex earlier this spring, and now working on our second synthetic turf infield at Knock Park this fall for use next year. Partnerships with the city and the Riverwalk. We have a number of great partnerships with the city of Naperville. This past year, we partnered with the city as well as received a donation from the Riverwalk Foundation to complete the Prairie Nature Garden that is located on the Riverwalk. And if you've not had a chance to visit it recently, it is really coming in beautiful. A number of nice flowers that are there, so that's been a nice addition to the Riverwalk. And then just a number of different donors that we've been able to work with, and we're excited to have the grand opening of the Frank Russ Pavilion coming up here in September. We recently had the opening of the Rothermel Family Skate Facility at Centennial Park. So all of those different partnerships and donations are certainly helping to provide great amenities to the community. I mentioned before that the efforts to recruit and retain staff have been working, and we are in a better place there. The Moody's AAA rating renewed for the 17th consecutive year earlier this summer. Certainly was huge, especially with the recent bond refunding that we completed. The indoor space, recreation space needs assessment. We're currently on schedule for completion this fall, and we're excited to be able to present the findings from that as well as all of the community input that we've received as we've worked through this project. Our fee assistance program, utilization right now is up 36% over last year. We've seen a pretty significant increase. And just to give you a sense as to where that places us, so far we have issued over $29,000 in fee assistance to families, compared to about $21,000 at this point in time in 2023. 272 individuals have benefited from the fee assistance program so far this year, and that's compared to 237 individuals for the entire year of 2023. So certainly getting some great use out of that program and being able to benefit a number of additional families in the community. With WDSRA, participation, much like our programs, continues to grow in a number of areas. Inclusion is up over 20% this year, and registrations in programs offered by WDSRA are up 9%. I talk about some of the pressures that are being placed on Naperville Park District. WDSRA is seeing the pressures with inclusion and finding the staff, and then also the rising costs associated with staffing and being able to provide those programs. So that's something that we're working through with WDSRA as one of the member districts. So far, or I shouldn't say so far, but over 70 capital projects are on track for completion in 2024, up pretty significantly from last year, where we had about 50 projects. Our social media presence, I know many commissioners, you've seen this, has really increased this year. Sam and her team, marketing team, has done a great job of really increasing our overall engagement and presence on social media, and we look forward to continuing that. And then a major project for this year that is also on track is the implementation of the new human capital management software. That is something that is currently taking place. Training is taking place with staff right now, our supervisors, and we're excited to roll that out. And I'll turn it over to Director Coates to provide an overview of participation and facilities.
Good evening. So Centennial Beach, we are sitting in a pretty good place for the closeout with 5 days left of the season. Contributing factors, as you can see, we're going to come in higher than budget, at least we plan to. Our daily admissions are up 10% over last year, and our membership sales are about 5% lower. But with that, it's kind of a good thing because your dailies usually bring in a lot more people. And the dollars, so that's been a good thing. Centennial Grill is up 10% compared to last year, so that's good. The weather, a lot of our expenses are a little bit lower due to the weather. We've had overnight rains, which has been wonderful because it doesn't shut us down during the day, but we don't use up as much water and don't need to fill, so we've had that. We're managing our staffing hours better. The weather was very consistent this summer, so we were able to really have a set schedule and work within the means within the budget. So that's been excellent. Fort Hill, as you can see, it just continues to grow. Membership revenue is up 21%. Fitness membership usage is up 18%. Our track use up 20%, and then group exercise as well is up. We also have seen a really big increase in our open gym usage, which has been about 16% up in our childcare. So we're really, overall, we're just seeing some wonderful, we're on, as you can see in the corner there, we're on pace for a great year, to have a record year this year with Fort Hill. So we'll just continue to see how we do for the rest of the fall.
Good evening. A couple things on golf, kind of tied to what Director Coates was saying. We've had an exceptional year right now through the season for golf. We compare to 2021, we're up about 5% right now. We look at 2021 because that was the last year we had a full season for both golf courses. A couple of the factors that are driving this, obviously demand is strong. We've seen that for the last 5 seasons. That continues to show. But as Director Coates has said, the weather has been very nice this year. So we've been blessed by some great weather. And it helped us open the courses a little bit earlier than we expected. So that was a benefit for us. If we look at our year-to-date right now, we're at about 62,000 rounds combined between the 2 golf courses. Actually, if you compare that to some numbers just as recently as 5-6 years ago, we were at 66,000 rounds for the entire year. So we expect to be exceeding that sometime later this month. On the driving ranges, you see a big jump in our range revenue, up about 23% or 26% versus last year, year-to-date. That demand just keeps on growing. We're obviously benefiting from some of that weather, and we had those ranges opened extremely early this year. In fact, they were open in January, so people are out there hitting golf balls in the winter. But obviously, our practice area expansion projects have really helped drive this growth. Beginning in 2016, we've had several projects to provide larger and more improved practice areas, and we're seeing obviously some of the benefits of that. And then, of course, next month we'll have a dedication for another new practice area, the Marie Todd practice area at Naperville. So all this has kind of more than doubled our average revenue on the driving ranges since 2016. So we're seeing some exceptional numbers there. Memberships, that continues to be positive. Our Links memberships are up about 13%. We had about 80% renewal this year. So we did have some members drop, but we were able to find quickly, very quickly, new members, which is great. So we get some new members every year. And overall golf revenues are about 15% ahead of budget. Weather is obviously a big part of that, opening early. And then the positive reception we've received from the renovation to Springbrook is also driving a lot of that. So all those factors, plus the continued demand that we're seeing, are driving us right now towards a record year.
Okay, for programs, for registration. Overall, we are beginning to see some of our programs are starting to hit a little bit of a plateau. So we still have some of our programs, which you can see up there under the athletics, our big program soccer. Although the academy and just regular individual NYS soccer, we're down about 5%, but our Premier League is up about 9%. So we're seeing a shift where people are moving to some of the more teams. Overall, if you combined both of them, we're probably thinking we're about 100 kids up compared to last year. So that's been a good thing. Gymnastics continues to be popular. We're at about 4,500 plus participants right now. Over the course of the year, we probably had about 1,000 participants on the wait list in various classes. And we're really pretty much on track. We really can't do too much with those wait lists at this time other than to make adjustments with the classrooms, with the types of classes and the age levels. But we'll continue to work with that as we go. Basketball, we're having 193 more players than we had last year. So thank goodness for the school districts. They're supporting us with the space that we're allowed to utilize those spaces for practices. So that's been great. Summer day camps. Wow, every year we just keep going more and more and more, which has been great. We're pretty much maxed at the two sites, Seeger and Frontier. We probably can't take on any more kids there just because of site restraints. The other challenges that we're having with summer day camps is our expenses continue to grow. So, which we'll get into, Director Stanish will talk a little bit on that later, but transportation is going way up. So some of those things that we have, the more kids we add, the more buses we need and things like that. So we'll look to try to make some changes for next year that we can try to accommodate as much as we can to try to keep those costs down as well. Indoor general programming, the arts and science and technology, 1,800 plus participants. We're holding very steady, so the indoor space is definitely still needed, and we're seeing that. Kind of the surprise area is a little bit of the private lessons and personal training. You can see up there 1,633 sessions of personal training, private swim lessons, 197, golf, 652 lessons, and then tennis practice with a pro, 180 lessons. So we're seeing a lot of that need for a little bit of individuality, and they like the flexibility of when practices are and things like that, so they do it like that. So we're really, I guess the good thing is we have a year where we're seeing not these huge spikes. We're starting to plateau and flatten out a little bit, and it's a little bit easier for us to plan things, when we don't have those big, huge, changes. So overall, we're doing very well. So, thanks.
Okay, now I get to follow up again about some of our challenges. You've heard a lot of good news about where we are, and Brad mentioned some earlier on about challenges that we're facing. And actually, mid-year is really a good time to take a step back and look at what's challenging, because as we're going into the 2025 budget season, these are things that we're thinking about now of what we can do to help address that. So you're going to hear some things, as you see up there. The high demand of our programs is a challenge, and we're so successful at what we do that more and more people and children want to participate in our programs. And Andrea mentioned some of ours, but they're the typical and mainly indoor programs: the basketball, the gymnastics, open gyms, Fort Hill. We're busting at the seams. So we're thinking of all this as we're programming for next year of what can we do with scheduling, starting to think about that now. Day camps is another one where we have had so much success, and the rising costs, which I'll speak to on the next slide, is challenging because part of our mission is affordability, and it's also having great experiences. So we're trying to balance all of those for those day campers, and it makes our programs very, very popular. Compression, it's something we talk about a lot. Katie and I and our teams start looking at wages, both full and part-time around this time. Positions, that the comp study is being done, so that will set the future for all of our plans coming up once we get those results, which we're working on right now. It is working, as Brad had said, because our retainage, especially on the full-time and even seasonal and part-time positions, is the best that I can remember in the past, 5 to even longer than that years when we were struggling to fill positions. And it's shown, you can see it on the Riverwalk, how the maintenance has improved there. So that is all very positive, but it's something that we're not going to let our foot off the gas on, of making sure that we remain competitive and that really is a priority for our success. You've heard us mention special events and unplanned events that come up. And we have staff, we have an events manager to help us now. But the key to that is if it's a small event or a large event, sometimes they still take, to plan it right, a long amount of time, a lot of time for someone. So that's always a challenge for us. And also we have so many requests that we have to balance the open space and use of our parks versus putting them aside for a special event. The cost increases, we'll talk about some more specific examples in a minute on that. And then lastly, we'd just like to talk about, it's a little hard to describe this, but what we see and what we've been seeing is based on technology and social media. There's expectations from our community, which are high, for responses that are really quick and sometimes immediate. And I would say when you talk to each department, everyone has their challenges in this area, from customer service, where it maybe takes a little longer to get a response, or maintenance calls where we're balancing priorities with that. social media. Our presence has really increased, but then there's also the expectation that you're going to get an answer back right away. And AI has been helping us in that area with getting immediate responses back that we can through that platform. So while there are challenges, we can see how we've been chipping away and trying to address this and to keep our responses very timely and to meet those expectations. Okay, our favorite thing to talk about are cost increases. So last December, we were at a 3.4% CPI. We knew that our cost increases were much larger than that. As of July, the published all-inclusive CPI is 2.9%. And while that's great on a lot of things, and that's the official published number, excuse me, what we're seeing, and these are just some examples of our plants and flower beds on the Riverwalk and through our parks. We're seeing, this is compared to last year, all of these increases, 13% increases. In general, a lot of our park supplies, which include plants, garbage bags, gloves, salt, we're seeing average increases of 11%. Janitorial supplies, 4 to 10%. Our garbage or refuse services, 8%. It goes on. Mower, 9%. Fertilization, 4%. That's coming in line a little bit. Andrea had mentioned our transportation costs. We're 21 to 25% higher for our bus services. Again, balancing a quality program where costs are increasing, and we have a mission to also provide affordable programming is a constant challenge. On the technology side, we all know how important, without good technology and also the protection, we are investing a lot of money in technical and tech service contracts. We're seeing 10 to 15% increases on those contracts. So while it's great to see the published numbers coming down, what we are still battling are paying all of these increases across the board to provide the services that we do. And I will turn it over to Eric.
Good evening. So it's very difficult to believe that we're over 7 months through the 2024 calendar year, and we're making great strides in implementing our 2024 capital projects. As Executive Director Wilson mentioned earlier, we're looking to complete over 70 A and B. Those are our top priority capital projects this year, and that's much, much greater than the 50 that we completed last year for that A and B category. So we want to talk a little bit about the significant capital projects that we have these partnerships with in the community, as also Executive Director Wilson identified this wonderful relationship with Naperville Little League Baseball and the Field 5 at DuPage River Sports Complex that was completed earlier in the year. We're already working on the second project, Field 5 at Knock Park, and that's ready to be completed early in 2025. Next is the Knock Park parking lot expansion, which is a great partnership with School District 203. That's even completed. Stanford Meadows and Brighton Ridge Park shoreline restoration. Stanford Meadows is completed. Brighton Ridge Park is almost completed. Also, there's a third project to that we plan on bringing a temporary construction easement agreement to the board this fall, and that's the shoreline of the West Branch of DuPage River, and that's also part of the partnership with DuPage County. And then lastly, the Riverwalk Prairie Nature Garden. This is something in great collaboration with the city, the Riverwalk Commission, and the Riverwalk Foundation, who provided the funding for the project. As Executive Director Wilson identified, just the beautiful plant material that's there, collaboration with city staff in putting the concrete edging, the Riverwalk pavers that are in there, and even the signage, the environmental signage that aligns with our core value of environmental education, stewardship, and sustainability. Next, we want to talk about our capital investments. So looking at the Rothermel Family Skate Facility. Just a wonderful collaboration with the DuPage Foundation, the Rothermel Family Fund, and even Mr. Rothermel, and his generous support for the Naperville Park District in this project. Marie Todd Practice Facility. This is on the par, right? Is that the right word? On par for a ribbon cutting in September. And, thank you to Commissioner Todd and all her dedication throughout the years, and this is going to be a nice facility and an area for patrons and golfers to sharpen their skills before they go out on the course. The Frank J. Russ Pavilion. This is, again, a very generous donation from the Frank J. Russ Trust. The pavilion is already complete, and we're looking to have a ribbon cutting event on September 28th. Heritage Place Park opening. This was a wonderful opening that we had earlier in the year, and we're going to have many more, especially when we look ahead to 2025 and Polo Club as well as Fairlane Farms Park. Playground renovations, we have 9. Many of those ribbon cuttings we already had completed this year. We have Arrowhead Park planned for September 3rd, and we have Springfield as well as another site planned for early to mid-October. Nike Sports Complex Site Master Plan. This is we received extensive feedback from the community on this, and several improvements planned for the site, including a loop trail, a shelter over the cricket pitch, synthetic turf infields for the ball fields, a challenge course, a renovation of the playground, and water play features. And last but not least is the Naperville Golf Course irrigation renovation. As Director Carlson always talks about, the irrigation lines are the lifeline of the golf courses. So very much a aggressive and really exciting implementation process for these capital improvements to fulfill our mission at the Naperville Park District, but it's also exciting because we look ahead into 2025. We already conducted our capital projects open house for our main 2025 projects. We completed that in July. So it's really exciting because our staff is currently preparing design drawings and cost estimates to include in the 2025 capital budget, which we'll share with you later this year. Thank you.
So in the slides leading up to this, you can see that Park District programs, facilities are all in very high demand right now. We're seeing very high participation numbers, looking at both Fort Hill and golf on track for record years. A large number of projects that have been completed, a large number of those with great partnerships. We will continue as staff and as we look ahead to next year, work towards addressing and meeting those demands where we can within those programs and with providing those facilities. In addition to that, as we look ahead to 2025 and some of more of what would be the major goals or initiatives for the district next year, some of those are listed up here as far as implementing the recommendations from the indoor recreation space needs assessment. That is a major project for this year. As I mentioned before, quite a bit of community input, and we will have that report this fall to be able to assist with providing direction of where do we go as far as indoor recreation space. Updating the district strategic plan. Hard to believe that next year is the 3rd year of our current strategic plan, and it will be time to revisit that and set goals and initiatives for the next 3 years. And so that is something that we will look to engage with the board and the community to develop that next year. It's time to update and revisit the district's ADA transition plan. That's something that Eric and his team work from when it comes to capital projects and making improvements within parks. And so it's time for that refresh. Accomplishing inclusivity and engagement team district-wide initiatives. This is a new team that we are implementing actually this fall. The team will meet in the coming weeks. It's a staff-led team, and much like the green team that we have in place that really focused on environmental objectives, initiatives for the district and reports out on those. This team is going to come together and really work towards identifying ways to increase the organization's visibility within the community or outreach, in addition to identifying steps to enhance the district's brand as really a welcoming presence for everyone in the community. So we look forward to having some conversations with district staff from throughout the organization. This will be a team that will be comprised of representatives from departments throughout the organization to work towards putting some of those goals and initiatives together, and we'll share more with the board as that really comes together. Continuing to invest in attracting and retaining staff across the organization. This is something that we have really been focused on the last few years, and we need to continue to focus on that as it's so important to have the staffing levels that are needed to meet those high demands that we're seeing within both programs, facilities, and out in our parks. We're excited. Next year, we are on schedule right now to receive 2 new parks, Polo Club and Fairhaven Farms Park, with the development of that subdivision. And so having the opening of those parks in 2025. Developing a plan to address outdoor district-wide signage. This one is one where we've had some internal staff conversations. When you're out in parks, we have just a wide range of signage that is within our parks. And we're not talking about the park identification signs, anything like that. It's more of like the rule signs that you see, signs that you see along trail systems, signs that might be part of kiosk, providing directions or maps at some of our larger facilities. Really taking a look at our signage and developing greater consistency in the types of signage that's being placed, really putting together more standardization as to what is placed out in the parks so that we can, again, carry that brand out into the parks and not have maybe what would be like a hodgepodge of signs in parks. So something that we're going to take on as staff for next year. Assisting with hosting a 2025 Naperville Healing Field of Honor, bringing that back to Rotary Hill. We've had some initial conversations with Operation Support Our Troops, who is interested in bringing that back to the Hill, along with some of our veteran groups in the community. And then completing agency preparations for CAPRA. Our actual reaccreditation is in 2026, but there is a lot of work that goes into preparing for that type of assessment, and so we will have that as one of our major initiatives for next year. So with that, I'd like to open it up for any questions or thoughts that you may have.
Just really quick, how often do we have to get reaccredited for CAPRA?
It's every 5 years.
Cool, thanks. All right, are there any questions? Go ahead, no.
I just want to, well, everything's awesome. And I know there's challenges and all that, but it's just so wonderful to hear, you know, that people are using the fee, things like people are using the fee assistance more. Our AAA rating every year for 17 years is so important. Golf being up is such a highlight. Summer day camps being up is such a highlight. But I just have to applaud, especially the decision to start the inclusivity and engagement team. I'm thrilled, and I thank all the staff for doing that. I think it's really important, and it's great for our community.
Commissioner Janner, do you have any questions?
No questions, but on the just a small part on the piece about the signage, it seems like that might be a great opportunity for a partnership. There's so many sign companies in the community. Perhaps we can do some in-kind trading. I'm assuming we're not going to fabricate all that ourselves, but maybe we can do some in-kind trading with a partnership opportunity there.
Yeah, that's something that we can certainly take a look at as we start that project and really begin to get our arms around it.
I've got a couple questions. The fee assistance program, 36% up. Do we have any theories? I know we've increased our marketing on the program, but do we know?
We have done some additional marketing. I know we work closely with the school districts. Some of the participants that are within the camp programs during the course of the summer certainly benefit from that. And you saw the numbers just in day camps are up considerably this year. But I will say that there has been more of that concerted effort with promoting and the work that Sam and her team have done to really help to get the word out there, and I think that's certainly helped.
That's great. I like seeing a lot of community members taking or using that program.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we stopped doing, or I believe we stopped doing the restaurant fundraisers for that. How are we primarily funding the fee assistance program?
So we do fund it. We do receive some donations during the course of the year, but that's also an area that we budget for within our operating budget. We have also had the philosophy as an organization, though, that if we meet that budget as to what the funding was placed for it, that we don't discontinue the program. We will look to reallocate funds. We will find money in other budgets or reduce in some other areas to continue that through the course of the year. And that's what we would do in this case. We do expect that we will likely exceed budget for this year based on the pace that we're on right now.
Okay, so we don't turn any community members away who qualify, correct?
We do not. If they qualify, then they receive it, and we find the funds to be able to cover that.
Okay, great. And if nobody else has follow-ups on that. I had a question about summer camps at 2,900 campers is a lot. Have we considered opening other locations? And I know it's hard to balance with the cost of transport. How Are they
Yeah.
taking daily field trips? Is it weekly field
Yeah,
trips?
that's one of the things that we're going to look at for 2025. That is probably the biggest challenge. You move to another site, you have to have another director. You have to, so you move to another site, your expenses just get more and more. And then the busing. The busing is the biggest part, as you saw, 21 to 25% is huge. So next year we're going to look at, are we going to take 2 trips to Centennial Beach? The problem is, you know, it's kind of a philosophy thing. You have to kind of look at this. We still want to maintain the quality. We still want it to be a day camp experience, not all daycare, day camp, a little bit more than just, you know. So that's where our balance is, and that's where we have to really look to see what are we going to do with the program for next year. Because moving to another site, we also, I mean, Brad and I have had this conversation many a times. Where would we go? You know, you're looking, you need a shelter, you need some of those amenities that you just can't be out in the middle of an open field. Sure. You got to consider the rain sites. So there's so many things involved in that. But this year we were able to accommodate everybody off the wait list. At least I believe that we could. There might have been a few that weren't, but for the most part, we were able to accommodate almost everybody on the wait list. So kudos to staff for really pushing to get that done. But yeah, a challenge that we're gonna look at different scenarios for 2025.
Okay, that's great. I mean, that's amazing that you accommodate people at the wait list, because that number, I mean, so many people in our community must be using that for summer care.
Yes, they are, and you don't want to take that away, but on the flip side, we also want to be able to provide a quality, good day camp experience.
Sure.
So
and
I would
affordable.
Yeah, and I'd say with the growth that we saw this year and the numbers that we saw this year, this is now really the first time to where we don't feel that we can expand beyond those numbers at those 2 locations. So this would really be the first time that we need to look at, is there that ability to expand to another site? What does that involve, and are we able to do that? For the transportation piece of it, so the way that our camps are set up is they do travel to Centennial Beach twice during the course of the week, and then they also have a weekly field trip. So typically camps are traveling at least to some location 3 out of the 5 days during the week.
Okay. So the 2 locations are Seeger and Frontier.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I know everybody's working really hard to accommodate and creative solutions, so thank you. Awesome. Thanks. Any other follow-up questions for the mid-year review? No? All right. Thank you. We will move on then to board policies and bylaw updates.
Yes, so a review of the board policies and bylaws is scheduled to occur every 3 years, and the last review was completed in 2021. Proposed updates were provided in the August 9th weekly packet, and the updates have been reviewed and edited by legal counsel and discussed at the Parks and Recreation Committee. The updates include proposed addition of a policy for acceptance of donations under Section 5, which is operational matters. The purpose of the policy is to establish procedures for consideration by the board of offers by third parties to donate capital items, improvements, or projects to the district that are not subject to the more specific policies or programs like the Remembrance Program that we have in place. The policy identifies standards for donation consideration, the procedure for making a donation, criteria for acceptance of a donation, donation acknowledgments, and how donations may be relocated, removed, or replaced. We would like to receive feedback tonight from the board on any of the proposed changes within the board policies and bylaws in preparation for bringing it back to the board at the September meeting for approval. So wanted to open it up for any thoughts, questions that the board may have on the proposed changes.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions, comments, discussion? Commissioner Janner?
Nope.
I'm going back and forth on accepting of gifts. Right now, the way it stands is simple majority for board approval, correct? Or in this draft document?
In this, in the draft document, yeah, it would be a simple majority of the board.
Okay, and when we do park namings, it's a 5-7, right, a supermajority?
Correct. Naming of park and facility amenities need to be approved by a 5 to 7 vote of the board.
Okay. I would be interested in hearing what the other commissioners have to say, because it seems consistent to me that if we are accepting donations, it then becomes government speech. I don't know, it seems similar to me, like when we choose naming of a park, but I would be interested to hear from the others. I don't know, Commissioner Jan, or sorry, whoever.
Yeah, I would definitely be open to making it more across the board, so to speak, where we get more input from the public too, as to the same naming conventions that we go through when we place a donation or accept a donation. You know, because we post that we have the name that we want, and then what is it, like 60 days?
It's a 60-day period.
For them to come forward. That way, if there's anything that's going into our parks that the community at large might object to, we would have knowledge of that before it goes into the parks.
Okay.
I guess is my thought on it.
Anybody else have any? Vice President Ruffin.
I think it's, I mean, I'm glad you brought it up, because it is an interest, I think it's a really good point to definitely get feedback from and see where everybody lands. I love consistency. I love when things are consistent across the board. I think, you know, I know we're talking about essentially one vote, but I think, I really think that consistency, and it is a very important role that we play in accepting these donations. So I would certainly be, I'm in agreement with you.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson?
Well, I think taking a name, like naming rights of a park is a little bit different though, because it's more of a commercial transaction. We're taking money from people. Putting a monument in the park, I think it's, I'd be okay with just a majority in that if we're going to put a monument in a park, because I think it's different than the sponsorship.
To clarify, though, it's not necessarily sponsorship. It's, you know, if we have somebody in the community we want to honor or recognize.
Okay,
so
right.
Like when we did
okay,
the
naming
fair.
something for somebody. Okay.
So I mean, it could go both ways. So you're absolutely right. That would be a similar scenario.
I think a majority is fine for this, as it's written here. Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Janner, do you have any comments or questions about it?
No, I'd be in favor of a simple majority as well. I mean, it's been customary for many years we're a 7-person board for 4 hands to govern, and I don't think this rises to the level of needing a supermajority.
Okay.
I'm concerned that it's government speech. So my concern is that if you accept donations, regardless of where they're from, we're going to have an ordeal like we had several months ago. It is government speech. If we're placing a plaque in a park, that's our park. We own that land. We're effectively giving a stamp of approval to whatever we've placed. That needs to be a supermajority. That can't just be 4-on-3. It has to be. I would want it to be unanimous, but I don't think that's a realistic expectation. But my concern is that it is government speech, and we're going to find ourselves in a difficult spot at some point because a 4-3 vote went in a way that it otherwise probably shouldn't have.
Okay, Executive Director Wilson, on this item, since the plan is to discuss these policies and then bring them forth at the next board meeting for approval?
That was the plan. Now, certainly if the board wants more time to consider this, then we can target a meeting later in September or the early October meeting. Essentially, I would be looking to gather consensus this evening as to which direction the board would like to go with the policy update so that we could then finalize that and present it for approval. But if there's more discussion or thought that needs to be had on this topic, it can certainly be brought back at another meeting.
Okay. I like Vice President Ruffin's point about consistency. To me, accepting a donation that goes in our park is similar to a naming. I don't really foresee future problems, but I think it's a consistent policy in my view, but so do we want to then do a consensus on, sorry to clarify, a consensus on whether we would like this part changed? Okay.
Is there going to be an opportunity to rework language, though? Because some of the language, like I don't,
For the whole
instance,
document or
no,
this
just
part?
for this part, like acceptance of a donation. we're accepting donations of a plaque, but one of the requirements is that it meets the true need of the park. There is no donation of any plaque anywhere that meets the need of a park. That's inconsistent with the policy. So we would never be able to accept anything because unless you're donating a slide or swings or something like that. But if you just want a memorial plaque, it's not necessarily going to be consistent with the true need of the facility or the park. So there's language in here that I think is prohibitive and difficult for me as an attorney.
So maybe we postpone it and have more discussion?
Well,
what would you prefer?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
if I may, a point of clarification. The point of clarification, the policy just gives us guidelines. It doesn't dictate what the will of the board would be. I think Brad used the term guardrails, and we talked about this before. So the policy gives us some guardrails, gives us some guidance, but it does not directly govern what we accept or do not accept. That would still be governed by, in this case, a majority of the board. Am I saying that?
I guess I'm further confused. Why have policies then? Policies are rules. They're rules that you follow. They're not suggestions. This isn't the board's suggestions. These are the board's policies. Policies and procedures are rules. So if they're going to be rules, they need to be effective rules that you can actually enforce and actually implement. Otherwise, they're pointless.
No, I'm just trying to think of next steps.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think.
I personally would like more time to look it over and to really digest some of the language and give it another hard read.
And I wonder
So if the board would like to, I mean, we can take the additional time, bring it back again at the next meeting. But I guess what I would look for between now and then is to receive any questions or comments from the board on the board policies and bylaws, so that we can then have time to be able to review that, incorporate any changes, and bring that back for the next discussion.
Okay, I think that's a good plan. So
Okay.
anybody who has questions or concerns, reach out to Brad
Yeah.
directly, and then we will bring it back as a new business item in a future meeting, or?
We'll figure out where it gets placed, but yes, we would bring it back to another meeting for discussion, then
Okay.
prior to bringing it for approval.
Okay, great, thank you, and thanks for work. This is, a long document, so I appreciate the updates to it. So, okay, are there any other parts of this board policy document anybody like to have questions or discuss this evening? No? Okay. Then we will move on to the next one, which is Ordinance 641 amendments.
Yeah, so with this one, included in the August 16th weekly packet was recommended amendment to Ordinance 641. Recent changes in state legislation have resulted in the need to amend the ordinance. The first proposed change is an update to the aviation drone section of the ordinance. In the Park District 641 currently, we asserted jurisdiction over our properties of 200 feet, and based on the most recent legislation, we should change that to 150 feet just to get that cleaned up and in line. Additionally, Dirk suggested that we include that if there is a conflict between the district's policy and regulations issued by the Illinois Department of Transportation, that the regulations of the Department of Transportation will supersede the district's policy in this case. The second proposed change is the result of legislation that involves electric scooters. And we received both an alert from Illinois Association of Park Districts as well as PDERMA notifying park districts that we need to take a careful look at our ordinances or any rules regarding use of electric scooters on park property. And based upon the recent legislation, it results in the park district being subject to lawsuits if an e-scooter user is injured while operating a device in an area that's not specifically authorized by the district. Currently, Ordinance 641 allows for e-scooters to be used and considered as a micromobility device. What we're recommending is that the definition of micromobility devices is changed to remove electric scooters, and that the section addressing micromobility devices is updated to prohibit the use of e-scooters on park property.
Question?
We talked about this, Brad, briefly, maybe not briefly, earlier today. Does this require us in any way to go back and revisit the conversation we previously had about e-bikes and anything associated with that if we're going to start applying the vehicle code to the ordinance?
No, this
Okay.
is specific to the e-scooters.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's because they added a definition of e-scooters to the Illinois Vehicle Code, and the legislation changing that definition and making them a vehicle that can be ridden on streets took away the tort immunity part of the protection we have about intended users. So their e-scooters are now treated differently by this new legislation than other things.
Commissioner Jacks, did you have a question?
Electric scooter is the small wheels on it, right? With the folds up with the small wheels, as opposed to e-bike. It's not like a bike. Is it like the Razor scooter, like the kids ride around? I'm a little trouble visualizing what.
The electric scooter is, they haven't been here. They haven't been permitted in, but there's a version that's like the Divvy bike, which you can rent with a credit card. St. Louis, places we've been for different National Recreation Park Association conferences have had these scooters. So the wheels are smaller than bikes. They're about the size of like a dolly's, a hand cart's wheels. They have an electric scooter that can go 20 miles an hour or more. And the problem with the new legislation is that if you don't ban them, then you have to make the entire park system available for them to be used safely. So some minor on a vehicle, now defined as a vehicle going 20 miles an hour, hits a pothole that the bike can handle, but this little scooter's wheels can't. That's a Razor. The fold-up Razor scooter is not powered. That's except by the human being and the foot. And we've banned those certain places, but not. We don't need to worry about them in the same way.
Okay, got it. All right, sounds good. Next up is Gold Star Families Memorial Monument Donors Recognition Stone.
Yes, as described at the August 8th, 2024 Parks and Rec Committee, local veterans and representatives with the Century Walk Corporation and the Gold Star Committee suggested the idea of furnishing and installing a donors recognition stone to recognize those who supported the installation of the Gold Star Families Memorial Monument at Veterans Park in 2023. As a bit of background, on April 8th, 2021, the Naperville Park District approved ordinance number 992, an ordinance approving a grant license to Century Walk Corporation for the design, fabrication, and installation of a monument honoring Gold Star families at Veterans Park. Park District staff and community members identified a location for the proposed donors recognition stone at Veterans Park, adjacent to the concrete walk that leads to the Gold Star Families Memorial Monument. The donors recognition stone is to be furnished and installed by the Century Walk with support from the Gold Star Families Memorial Monument Group. A draft First Amendment to the original grant of license for the installation of the Gold Star Families Memorial Monument Donors Recognition Stone at Veterans Park was included in the August 16th weekly packet, and tonight we wanted to gather thoughts from the board regarding that First Amendment.
Does anybody have any questions, comments? Commissioner Janner?
Nope, thank you.
All right. Sounds
Excellent. So as a next step, we will present an ordinance to approve that First Amendment at the September 12th meeting.
good. Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
DuPage River Sports Complex Field 2 fence renovation.
Contract for this project is anticipated to be presented to the Park Board for approval in September. The scope of work consists of removal of the existing galvanized chain link backstop fence and line fencing and replacement with black vinyl coated chain link fencing and backstop. A total of $120,000 is allocated in the 2024 capital budget for this project. Pending contract approval, the project work is slated to commence in the fall with the goal to reach substantial completion by winter.
All right, thank you. Pepsi agreement amendment.
Okay, back in January of this year, we shared with the board that we had not yet met our volume threshold with our beverage provider, Pepsi. As written in the agreement, in the event the volume threshold was not met, then the term would automatically extend for the period of time necessary until the volume threshold had been met. I am happy to report we have met that threshold. As discussed in January, once we hit that threshold, we would look to the board to approve an amendment to the current agreement. The amendment would extend the terms of the agreement to December 31st of 2025. We would include many of the same elements as had been previously included, such as $12,000 a year in sponsorship dollars, commission on products, rebates, and 100 free cases to the district, just to name a few. Staff feel this amended timeline fits better with our operation, as a mid-season beverage switchover would be disruptive. Staff have met with Pepsi representatives and discussed the overall amended agreement and the volume threshold. In order for us to more reasonably meet the threshold by December of 2025, Pepsi has decreased the volume based on current sales. This should be more attainable as we have the history to back it up. Pepsi is also going to include July and August sales of this year into the new agreement count. Our plan is to bring this agreement to the board for approval at the September board meeting. Any questions?
We're gonna have Mountain Dew, right? Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay, Mountain Dew. Right. Healthy choices. Right. Any questions?
Is the volume based on total dollars or total units?
Units, I believe. Yeah, both. See, do you know? I can tell you that. I have it with me. I think it is units. Yeah, it's units.
And I'm sorry. And
Okay,
you
thank
said
you.
no. Go ahead, Commissioner Janner. Oh, okay.
No, I was just curious of how those were structured, if it was units or dollars.
Yeah, it's units.
No, I'm good.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Next up, fireworks 2025.
It's me again. Okay.
All right.
After a very successful 4th of July fireworks show this year, staff would like to once again work with Mad Bombers Productions Company in providing the 2025 4th of July fireworks. Mad Bombers is proposing a 5% increase for the cost of the show, bringing the total cost to $52,500. The expense of the fireworks display is shared through a partnership with the City of Naperville. These types of services are not readily adaptable to competitive bidding, so we intend to present an agreement requesting that the bidding requirement be waived. This agreement will be brought to the board for approval, final approval at the September board meeting.
And just to verify, we used them at least 3 years, right? And there was no price increase last time. So this is the first price increase in a couple years.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just curious, has staff ever looked into like the drone shows in replacement for the fireworks? I just know they're easier on wildlife. A lot of times they're more cost effective. They're easier on our veterans who might have PTSD with explosions and things like that. So I'm just curious if that's an avenue we've ever gone down.
We haven't looked at it recently, but I know when it first, probably a year ago, the cost is actually, for a show to the degree that we have, it would be very costly. So I don't think they're quite, I think in a couple of years, they'll probably start coming down, but I think right now, it's too new of technology.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Next up, 95th Street lease agreement.
Okay, one last one. All right, the 95th Street Center lease agreement is once again up for discussion as we close out 2024. As you may recall, last year we had requested to extend the terms of the lease for 1 year with the option to extend 2 additional 1-year terms. At that time, the property owner preferred to go with a 1-year agreement instead of the automatic renewal. As we are approaching the end of the current lease agreement, we did reach out to the property owner to gauge interest in renewing the lease for the 2025 calendar year. The property owner is interested in renewing the terms of the agreement, and he is proposing a 4% increase in the monthly rental fee. The new fee would equate to $10,214.79 per month, or an annual fee of $122,577.56. Staff believe the location provides additional indoor programming space on the southern end of town, and the current participation levels at the 95th Street Center continue to support the need for this space. In the fall of 2023, through the summer of 2024, we held 133 classes at the facility and served over 1,900 participants. Our scheduling of the space has changed over the course of the year as we primarily use the facility in the early mornings, in the evenings, and over holiday and summer breaks. This scheduling adjustment has allowed us to be more compatible with the daytime businesses that are located within the building. The 95th Street Center is included in the indoor needs assessment that is currently being finalized, and the future use of this facility will continue to be evaluated in 2025 and beyond. Our plan is to bring this agreement to the board for approval at the September board meeting.
Is this the building that's right next to the YMCA?
Correct.
Oh, okay, cool.
Outside of school gyms, this is the furthest south indoor facility we have, correct?
There's the Knock Knolls Nature Center, which has the 2 classrooms. But then, yes, beyond that, this is the only more dedicated space for Park District programs beyond the schools.
Beyond the schools. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Fleet equipment purchase.
Good evening. As most recently shared at the August 8th, 2024 Parks and Rec Committee meeting, we intend to present for approval the purchase of 2 2024 Toro 60-inch zero-turn mowers and 1 2024 Toro 7500D batwing mower at a meeting in September. Purchase of these mowers would be made utilizing a contract awarded to Reinders Inc. via the Sourcewell Purchasing Network. Contract pricing for the 7500D batwing mower is listed at just over $67,000, and the 60-inch zero-turn mowers are just under $22,000 each, bringing the total purchase price to just a tad under $111,000. The 7500D batwing mower and one of the zero-turn mowers were listed in the 2024 Fleet Vehicle and Equipment Replacement Plan. The units scheduled for replacement have reached the end of their serviceable life and are no longer cost-effective to repair. Staff identified the 7500D batwing mower as a viable replacement rather than the purchase of a new 16-foot production mower currently listed for sale at over $150,000, resulting in a cost savings of over $80,000. Purchase of the second zero-turn mower is needed due to the unexpected engine failure of a unit scheduled for replacement in 2025. To facilitate this earlier than planned acquisition, staff will defer the purchase of a ball field groomer until next year. Each of the 3 units proposed for purchase operate on a more environmentally friendly biodiesel fuel blend, further promoting the district's commitment to its core value of environmental education, stewardship, and sustainability. Basic service measures will be performed to keep the current units available for use in emergency situations. For example, we have a backup that we can use for the one that just had the engine failure. Pending approval, orders will be placed with fulfillment expected during this fall season, and funds remain available in our budget to make the purchase.
Great. Any questions? Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So the next regular meeting of the Park Board of Commissioners is September 12th, 2024 at 7 p.m. here at Fort Hill Activity Center.
Move to adjourn the August 22nd, 2024 regular meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thanks, Commissioner Janner.
Thank you. Have a good night.